10-year challenge and stuff like that, couples or friends or whatever. So I thought instead of a 10-year challenge, why stop there? Why not do like a 20-year challenge? So Brother Brett's got the lights. So 20-year challenge, you know, or maybe a 20-year challenge is not enough for you.
Oh no.
How about a 30-year challenge? You know? Or how it started.
How it's going. I'm on the right, but the Brett has the guitar. There we go.
Yeah, we know.
And how it's going now. So, but anyway, just something to if you have a Bible, go and turn to the book of 2 Kings. And we're going to use the Bible quite a bit, but we're only going to stay in 2 Kings. So, go and turn to 2 Kings chapter 2. And it's a real honor and a blessing for me to be able to be here and to come up here and speak and things like that. And, you know, of course, I love our young people a lot. I appreciate them a lot and all that they do to come through here, and we'll talk about that a little bit, I'm sure. But then a lot of you from Faith Baptist or even Valley, I've known, if not you, your families in most cases for a long time. And anyway, it's a real blessing for me to be able to be up here. 2 Kings chapter 2, and if you look at verse number 9, and it says, "And it came to pass, when they were gone over, that Elijah said unto Elisha, Ask what I shall do for thee before I be taken away from thee. And Elisha said, I pray thee, let a double portion of thy spirit be upon me. And he said, Thou hast asked a hard thing. Nevertheless, if thou see me when I am taken from thee, it shall be so unto thee. But if not, it shall not be so." Let's pause there and have a word of prayer. Dear Lord, I thank you for today. And I thank you for this camp, and I thank you for Faith Baptist and all the pastors that are here. Thank you for a camp that's been doing this for a long, long time, and for all the young people that are here, whether they chose to be or were forced to be, they're here. And so I pray, God, that right now this would be just a small time where we can get something from your word. That's all I want, just something from your word. And I pray, God, that you would just bless this time. In your name I pray, amen. Elisha's been kind of a common theme, it seems, of a camp. And the sermon is not about him, but right here we do get a little story of Elisha. Elisha is one of the greatest prophets in the Bible, but Elijah comes to him, and Elijah is arguably, he's maybe the greatest. I mean, it's between him and probably Moses or something. A lot of people think in the future, when two prophets come at the end times, that Elijah is one of them, that Elijah never died. I mean, here's a guy that he did everything from raising people from the dead and calling fire down from heaven. And so he comes to Elisha, and he says, you're going to take over for me. And Elisha says something. He says something really bold. He says, I want a double portion of your spirit, if that's going to happen. Now, can you imagine someone walking into Brother Josh's office, you know? Maybe John Lenz walks in and goes, hey, Brother Josh, I want to be the youth pastor. And Brother Josh says, oh, John, that's so wonderful. Oh, you'd be a great youth pastor, right? Can all of you guys imagine Brother John running the show here? And, and Brother Josh says, yeah, John, you know, in the future, down the road. And John says, no, I want it right now. And I don't want to just do it now. I want to be double the youth pastor you are, Brother Josh. And Brother Josh would probably look at John and say, John, there's the door. Feel free to use it. You know, go ahead and get out of here. Brother Josh would say, it took me a long time to get where I'm at. I mean, Brother Josh, he grew up in church, and then he went to Bible college. And let me just tell you something about Brother Josh, okay? When he was in Bible college, he was a big deal. I mean, he was on tour, and he was a dorm soup. His football team was undefeated, and they did beat mine. And it was, I was bummed, because I was the only non-Faith Baptist guy that was not on the team. He picked everybody else. I'm a little bitter about that still, but he was a big deal, right? And then he's battled cancer multiple times. I mean, it has taken a lot for Brother Josh to be Brother Josh. And maybe some of you don't realize that. So for someone to walk in and say, yeah, I want to be you, but I want to skip the whole cancer thing. I want to skip the whole Bible college thing. I want to be you right now. And I want to be double you. And I don't want to put in any of the time or any of the effort or any of the work. You would think, what an arrogant guy. You know, what are you even talking about? But that was not the way Elisha approached it. He wasn't coming in with an arrogant attitude. He wasn't coming in, yeah, I want to be you, Elijah, but better. He was coming in saying, with a humble spirit, and this is why humility is so important, and it's a greatly underrated trait, but he comes in and says, there is no way that I can do what you do unless God goes with me, unless God helps me, unless I think probably double of what you are, can I hope to come close to what you are doing? And Elijah looks at that and he says, you know what? you have asked a hard thing. I mean, I have raised people from the dead, and I have called fire down from heaven 4 different times, and I've done a lot of stuff. So I don't know if you're going to get it, but if you will see me taken up into heaven, then you'll get it. And so sure enough, he does. He sees it. The mantle comes down, falls down, and he goes to the Jordan River, and Elisha says those famous words, and he says, "Where is the Lord God of Elijah?" And he strikes the river, and the river, kind of stacks up. And I take a lot of comfort in that, to know that in Elisha was able to do the things that Elijah did. In fact, he did double the miracles. Elijah did 8, Elisha did 16, ranging from minuscule to an axe, goes below, and then he has it come to the top, kind of like backstrokes, and reattaches to the stick. 2, he also raised somebody from the dead. And he also, when he was already dead, somebody threw a body in there, and the body, when it hit the bones of Elisha, came back to life. So some pretty cool things that Elisha did. And he was able to do the things that Elijah did. You know what that means to me? That means if God could bless someone like Pastor Goddard, who is, my hero to this day, or a great man like Pastor Callie, if he would do something amazing with them, he could do something maybe with me. I don't see myself as these men, nowhere near. But why would God be willing to bless them and not be willing to bless me? If it's the same God, and I can put in the same work, and I have the same Bible, and I can do the same things, couldn't he use me just as much? And couldn't he use you just as much? Couldn't he use you? Is it not the same God? Is it not the same person? Is it not the same God that will bless if you will put in the same work? If you will read the same Bible? If you will do the same prayer? Couldn't you be blessed just as much? Now, the sermon is not about Elisha, but I do want to point out, maybe many of you don't realize this, the ministry of Elisha was so many years, and most of the ministry of Elisha, there was one king that was the king during the ministry of Elisha. Not the entire ministry, but most of it. One king. Wouldn't it be a shame for a king to be there with Elisha in the same kingdom and not to do right? I mean, what a waste. That would be like some of you who have fantastic churches. I mean, those of you that go to Faith Baptist, not only do you have Pastor Goddard, but right now, at the time of Faith Baptist, you guys are having some amazing things happen. Most of the ministry is run by young people that grew up there. What an exciting time to be at that church. People that sat where you sit, and now you are there and they're doing amazing things. As an example, I think it's fantastic. Valley Baptist, I remember when Pastor Callie, when he was voted in as the pastor, I went to the very first youth conference that they had, and to see how that church has just grown and all the amazing things that they're doing and all the people they've had go to Bible college, and the staff he has right now is so strong, and it's a mixture of young people with older people, but it's such an experienced, wonderful staff. What an exciting time to be at that church. I have known Pastor Jason McCrae for almost 20 years. We were freshmen in college together, and I know what a godly guy he is. I know how much he loves the Lord. All of your churches, it's an exciting time to be in the church. And wouldn't it be a shame for you to be at this golden age of your church and to miss it? To completely miss it the way this king we're going to talk about today kind of missed it. If you'll turn over one chapter, 2 Kings chapter number 3, and look at verse number 1. The Bible says, "Now Jehoram, the son of Ahab, began to reign over Israel in Samaria the 18th year of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, and reigned 12 years. Verse 2, "He wrought evil in the sight of the Lord, but not like his father, and like his mother, for he put away the image of Baal that his father had made. Nevertheless, he cleaved unto the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, which made Israel to sin, and he departed not therefrom." This king, Jehoram, or in other spots his name is Joram, he is going to be the king, and he is the son of Ahab, but he is going to give God a chance. We're going to look at 3 stories, and we're going to be done. 3 stories where Joram, or Jehoram, he's going to give God a chance. You saw there that he made changes. He did not worship Baal the way his father did. But he never ever really bought in either. He did what I believe a lot of you are doing here today. You are putting God on trial. And that's what Joram did. he put God on trial. He said, I'm going to give Christianity a chance. I'm going to give it a chance, and I'm going to see how it goes, and we'll just see where that's at. And that's where a lot of you are at. And you feel like that's a good spot. Like, I'm not coming with a closed mind. I'm not coming with a closed heart. I'm going to give God an opportunity. I'm just not going to buy in. God is on trial period, and we'll just see how this goes. And if it goes good, okay, then I'm in. But if it doesn't go good, I got an escape plan. I already know what I'm going to do, and I'm going to go here. God is on trial the way Joram or Jehoram had gone on trial. The name Joram means God has exalted him. God has taken him and he's made him important. He's exalted him. That's what Ahab named his son. Jehoram means Jehovah is exalted. So Joram says, I'm going to sell out. I'll do this. I'm going to change my name to Jehovah's exalted. We'll give this a chance. And that was a big step. This guy's dad was Ahab. This guy's mom was Jezebel. For him to get to this place where he's even going to give the God of Israel a chance is kind of a big deal. You know, he was probably there when Elijah called fire down from heaven. If he wasn't there, Elijah was a common topic at the dinner table. He knew who Elijah was. This was enemy number one for his father. And so for him now to be willing to give the predecessor or the successor a chance, I mean, it's kind of a big step. For some of you to come here for a variety of reasons and say, I'm going to give God a chance. It's taken a lot for you to even do that. For you even to get there, for you even to be here, it took a lot for you to be here. You had to make some changes for this week. You had to rearrange your schedule. Some of you, this is all new to you. You have not been saved long. Maybe some of you aren't even saved. You don't even realize it. And so to come here and to hear the Word of God and say, you want me to plan my life around this book that's thousands of years old, you're asking a lot right now, buddy. For some of you, you've grown up in church, and for your whole life, you've been drugged to church by the ear, and so it's not really that real to you. I mean, I have to go to church no matter what I want, right? But someday when I'm 18, man, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. So for you to come and be like, all right, I'm going to give this a chance, takes a lot for you. But you still have God on trial. Now, I just have to admit, I don't fully understand that. I don't really get it, especially if you have seen the working of the Lord. I went to Faith Baptist when it was in a tent on Cat Road. I saw when we switched properties. I saw when we finally got a building. I was in the school building when our PE was taking down the walls with a sledgehammer, and David Schutz would always let go of that sledgehammer. I almost got concussion 3 different times. Thank you, Dave Schutz, wherever you're at. But I saw the changes that Faith Baptist has gone through. So you see the work of the Lord. I don't get how you can have God on trial. If Jehoram saw the fire come down, how could you possibly have that God on trial? But if you look at it, I guess it kind of makes sense why he would do that. And I think the reasons are the same for you. Number one, change is hard. It's hard to change. It's hard for you to look at your music and go, okay, I probably should change that. Look at your dress and go, I probably should change that. To look at maybe bad habits you have and say, okay, I probably should work on that. Do you have a big mouth? Do you have a bad temper? Do you just say things? But, oh, that's just the way I am, you know, just how I am. So, like, that's some kind of an excuse, right? To make changes is hard. So I kind of get why you maybe have God on trial for that. You know, for Jehoram, he saw a lot of success with the ungodly. His father, Ahab, we know, was a wicked king. But if you look at Ahab historically, he's not looked at that way. Ahab, he had a lot of success as a king. Here's a guy that defeated the Syrian army multiple times when they had a much larger army. Now we know by reading the Bible, God did that. But he would achieve something by doing that. He would break the back of Syrian power so that they could no longer compete with the Assyrians and the Babylonians. When the Assyrians will come in and take Israel decades in the future, you know who else gets taken? The Syrians. They were no longer as strong as they once were. Ahab did that. Ahab beat them very badly on 2 separate occasions. You know what else Ahab did? Ahab took a little city that his father Omri founded, a little goat herding town, and he made it a gigantic city called Samaria that was the capital of the country, that rivaled Jerusalem and the other great cities of the world at its time. Ahab did all those things. And so Jehoram is looking, and he's seen a lot of success on the other side, saying, well, I don't know. Looks like it's working for my dad. He had a long reign, and he was very successful. And some of you, you look at the other side, and you go, well, I know someone who doesn't go to church. They have a lot of money. I know someone who, they don't really believe in God, and man, they drive a nicer car than my parents do. I know people that they, been married a couple times, but they seem happy. I know a guy who was in church and even in the Christian school and got out. You know what? He makes a lot of money. He lives in La Cresta. I mean, he has a nice house. So these people that, they don't follow the Lord, it seems like it's okay for them. So maybe, I don't know. I'm going to try it out. I'm going to have God on trial. And many of you today have God on trial. You are having your toe in the water. Let me see how this goes. And while I think your heart is maybe kind of in the right place, it's not going to work. Yeah. You have to get in 100%. I remember we were getting sushi one time. My wife and I were big sushi eaters. And my daughter, Sela, who, she's 8 years old, she wanted some sushi. And this was $5 sushi day. So this was like a good deal here, And so she takes the sushi and she takes a little piece of the rice and kind of sticks it in. And then she trying to take the little seaweed out. And she didn't like that very much. And so she took like one bite of it. She's like, oh, I don't like sushi. Babe, you barely tried any of it, right? So the next week, I had to wait a whole week for sushi deal day to come again. And so when I get my $5 sushi, man, my spicy California roll, this is precious to me. And there's my 8-year-old daughter again. Hey, Dad, can I have a piece of sushi? No, you can't have a piece of sushi. You wasted it last week. But she gave me those eyes, and so I said, okay, but if you're going to do this, you're going to do it my way. So I took it, I put the ginger on top, I'm talking about, and you put a little bit of the wasabi, not too much, but just the right mix, so you get a little bit of that kick. It gets in your nose, right? And I said, all right, Sela, if you're going to do this, you got to put the whole thing in your mouth. No little bite. You can't just bite sushi. You got to stick the whole thing in your mouth. And so she took it, and she's trying to take a little bite, and I just pushed the whole thing in her mouth. And her eyes, you could see for the first time, whoa, this is sushi. Now, she might have hated it, I don't know. But it was a different experience. And you know what? Now when we get sushi day, right, she loves it. And she wants some. But she had to be all the way in to get the full experience. Some of you, man, you got a sushi god. You're just taking little bits and pieces of it. All right, it's verse time. I'll give a little bit of effort, but I'm still going to, count the pine cones while I'm at it. I guess during the preaching, I'll kind of listen, but I'm going to look at that girl too, see if she's looking at me, and you're trying to make eye contact with people, and you're thinking about everything but the preaching. You're here, and you're listening, and you don't have your phone. I mean, I turned it in, right? Don't I get bonus points for that? But you got a sushi god. You're not really all the way in. You have God on trial. Let me see how this goes. And there is danger in doing that. We just read there that Jehoram is going to reign for 12 years. For 12 years, he will have this opportunity to test out God. But eventually the time runs out. You don't get a limitless amount of time to test God. It's just a period of time. And 12 years was what he got. I find that ironic because that's about the time you're in school, isn't it? From the time you're in kindergarten till you graduate, it's about 12 years. So God gave it to him, and he's going to try it out. All right, 3 stories, and he'll be done. Go ahead and look at chapter number 3, verse number 10. Story number 1 of Jehoram. Jehovah is exalted. It says there, "And the king of Israel said, Alas, that the Lord hath called these 3 kings together, and to deliver them into the hand of Moab. But Jehoshaphat said, Is there not here a prophet of the Lord, that we may inquire of the Lord by him? And one of the king's of servants answered and said, Here is Elisha, the son of Shaphat, which poured water on the hands of Elijah. And Jehoshaphat said, The word of the Lord is with him. So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat and the king of Edom went down to him. And Elisha said unto the king of Israel, What have I to do with thee? Get thee to the prophets of thy father and to the prophets of thy mother. And the king of Israel said unto him, Nay, for the Lord hath called these 3 kings together to deliver them into the hand of Moab. And Elisha said, As the Lord of hosts liveth, before whom I stand, surely were it not that I regard the presence of Jehoshaphat the king, I would not look towards thee, nor see thee. What happened here? 3 kings are searching for the king of Moab. Moab is greatly outnumbered. They have no chance in this battle. The problem is, they can't find the guy. They're looking for him, they can't find him. And it's hot, and they're tired. They're going to die of thirst. And so the king of Israel goes, What are we doing here? We could squash this guy if we could find him, but we can't find him. The elements are going to defeat us, the way they did Napoleon, 1,000 years in the future, 2,000 years in the future, right? And we got no shot because we can't find him. Why would God bring us together just so we could all die? And Jehoshaphat, who is a believer, says, time out, hang on. Is there not a prophet we could talk to? Elisha's over here. They go see Elisha, and you see as Jehoram and Elisha kind of get a little bit of an argument. And Elisha says, What are you even doing here? Why even at my house? Why don't you go to your prophets? Why don't you go to the prophets of Baal? You know, the ones that Elijah didn't kill, the few that are left, go talk to them. And Jehoram says, wait a minute, no. You got to answer to me why God is doing this. Why did he bring us all together so he could just kill us? And Elisha says, the only reason I don't throw you out of my house is because Jehoshaphat is here and I respect him. Jehoram came in with an attitude and arms crossed saying, okay, giving God a chance, you better show me something, God. You better prove it to me. Okay, I'll go to camp and I'll give God a chance to talk to me, but you better do something incredible because I'm not going easy. He better, I don't know, the guy preaching better do something incredible, perform a miracle, heal somebody like Benny Hinn, I don't know, because I'm not going easy. God wants me to change. He better convince me, and I hope he's got a good pitch. I hope he's got something really wow, because I'm not changing easily. And that's how Jehoram was. And some of you, that's where you're at. You're kind of willing to change, but it's going to take like an earth-shattering experience, you know? Because I'm good the way I am. I go to church. Isn't that enough? I read the Bible every once in a while. Isn't that enough? And I know I have things I should change, and I'll get to it eventually, but come on. I'm a lot better than that guy is. I'm a lot better than that girl is. I'm doing okay. I'm doing fine. You want me to change? You better convince me then. And you have God on trial, the way Jehoram did. He had God on trial, and he said, all right, you got to convince me, God. Unfortunately, many believers have the same attitude. God has to convince them. The problem with Christianity is you have to give 100% if you're really going to see something. You really want to see God work, you got to give 100%. 75% won't do it. 50% won't do it. 30% won't do it. Even 85% won't do it. You have to give 100% if you want to see God work in your life. We understand this with everything else. Many of you are athletes. You play sports. You play soccer, some of you. You play basketball, some of you. You play volleyball, some of you. We understand that if you want to be good at that, you have to practice. You have to be out there shooting. You have to be out there working on your moves. If you don't do any of that stuff and you rely on your talent alone, you're only going to get so far. We get that. We get if you're going to try and lose weight, you got to, get in that gym more than once a month, right? And if you're on the treadmill as you're doing it, eating a donut, that's not going to do anything. I got one of my young men in my church. He jogs 2 miles and he goes and eats pizza. I'm like, Justin, that's not going to work for you, buddy. I don't even understand. He'll be here tomorrow. Don't tell him I told you that. But why is he doing that? But we get, you got to give 100% for that, right? So why don't we get it with Christianity? How come you think you can just be kind of half in and you're going to see a bunch of results? You won't. It has to be 100%. And if many of you are honest, you've never done that. You have never given 100%. You have given, but it's not been 100%. There is something still always holding you back. There is still always something that you know you need to change. And I'm not saying that when you get to 100%, oh, I'm perfect now. I mean you're giving 100% effort. Because a lot of you, you're not. And you know you're not. And the reason you're not is because you have God on trial. Yeah. Take God off trial. Take him off trial. Next story, chapter 6. Jehoram is impressed because Elisha works a miracle. He tells them to dig ditches. They dig ditches, and God makes it look like there's blood. And so the king of Moab thinks, oh, the kings fought, they killed each other, let's all go get their stuff. They come out, and surprise, surprise, the kings aren't dead. Moab gets wiped out, and Jehoram is impressed. He goes, okay, you've impressed me, God. Some of you, that's what's happened. You've come to camp, you've gone to a preaching service, and God impressed you. He touched your heart. You said, okay, let me come to the altar, let me make some changes. And for a while there, you made some changes. For a while there, you gave up the music. For a while there, you cut off the bad friends. For a while there, you stopped messing with substance. I know for many of you, the thought of messing with substance is crazy to you. But for many of you, it's not crazy. For many of you, it's a constant temptation. I think of my own teenagers. The majority of them come from a rough neighborhood. Half of our young people come from the east side of Riverside, where every single day they will see drugs, they will see gang members. It's not uncommon to have shootings over there. It's not the worst area, but it's a rough area. That's where they live. They see that stuff all the time. It's always there. And so for them to say no, it takes effort. For some of you, you've never had to deal with that. You never had anybody shoot at your house or something crazy like that. Some of the young people here, they have. And for them to say no to that, it takes effort. But God impressed you, so you said, I'll do it. Okay, you got me. There was a good sermon that somebody preached, Pastor Callen convicted me, so I'm going to give it a chance. I'm going to give it a try. You still have God on trial, but right now he's winning the trial, you know? So let me make some changes. So you've made the changes. And that's where Jehoram is at in chapter number 6. Go to look at verse number 20. It says, and it came to pass when they were coming to Samaria that Elisha said, Lord, open the eyes of these men that they may see. And the Lord opened their eyes and they saw. And behold, they were in the midst of Samaria. And the king of Israel said unto Elisha when he saw them, My father, shall I smite them? Shall I smite them? And he answered, Thou shalt not smite them. Wouldest thou smite those whom thou hast taken captive with thy sword and with thy bow? Set bread and water before them, that they may eat and drink and go to their master. A couple verses earlier, we won't read them because of time. The king of Syria, he goes to the people, his generals, and he says, Can one of you tell me who the traitor in here is? We set a trap for the king of Israel over here, and he avoids it. We got him right here, and he gets out of it. So which one of you is the traitor? And one of the generals raises his hand. I always wonder if it was Naaman who got healed a couple chapters earlier. And he says, It's none of us, king. What you got to realize is the prophet Elisha, he tells the king of Israel, Jehoram, what you whisper, all the chisme you tell your wife in your room. I mean, he knows everything, and he tells the king everything. And so the king of Syria says, well, let's go find this guy. So they show up at Elisha's front door with an army. And Gehazi comes out and he goes, oh no, we're doomed. And Elisha goes, what are you worried about? The people with us are more than the people with them. And Elisha prays that Gehazi's eyes would be open. And he sees fire and flame chariots all around the mountain. And Elisha so mercifully says, God, don't kill these people. Just strike them with blindness. So they're all blind now. After that fight's over, right? Like, I'm not fighting anymore. I'm blind. I can't see anything. I'm done. So Elisha comes to him, hey guys, you're in the wrong spot. This isn't Elisha's house. Let me help you out. He takes them by the hand. I don't know how an army of blind guys follows each other. I don't know if they all join hands together and they're all going like that. I don't know how it worked out. But somehow they managed to get into Samaria and they open their eyes. They're not blind anymore. They're in the middle of Samaria. And there's Jehoram with all of his army. Ooh, we're in big trouble. And here comes Jehoram. He goes, oh, can I smite them, my father? Elisha, let me just kill them all. Let me get them. And Elisha says, what kind of an animal are you? You can't kill these people that are your prisoners. Give them food, give them water, send them home. And to his credit, Jehoram does it. He listened. He goes, okay. He gives them food and he sends them home. I can guarantee you the old Jehoram would not have done that. He's making progress. He's growing. You're making progress. You're growing. You made the changes. You made the decisions. You're doing better. You came last year and you made choices and maybe you stuck to them for a while and we can see a little bit of progress. You're progressing little by little. But those old habits are still there. And you have to continue to fight them. Shades of your old ways are still there. If you make a decision or a choice, that part of you is still there. You're still going to have to continue to fight it. Every single person in here has a weakness. Many weaknesses. And you have to continue to fight those things. Just because you made a decision one time doesn't mean it goes away. Whatever it was, are you a liar? You struggle with lying? That's going to always be there. You're going to have to stay on top of that. Do you struggle with losing your temper and yelling? You're going to stay on top of that. Cursing and swearing, the wrong friends, whatever it is, you are going to have to stay on top of that. That is going to always be there. Music, dress, the world, money maybe. Some of you, your job, you barely got here because you don't take any time off work. It's all about the Benjamins. It's all about the green. You know, you care so much about money. That's your security blanket. You're going to have to fight that. Jesus talked about that. We all have a weakness. Remember when I was in high school, my first job was at Jack in the Box. Oh yeah, that one there in like Elsinore. Right when you get off the 15 freeway there in Bunny Camp. That was my Jack in the Box and I worked there. And, you know, I liked it. It was fun. I was there for 2 years. I worked drive-thru and stuff like that. And one of my weaknesses, I'm maybe too friendly, especially when I was in high school. So there was this girl there who, she was not saved. She did not go to church. She took a little shine to me. And I mean, can you blame her, right? So, but anyway, so she tried to talk to me and stuff like that. And so she was not bad looking. Okay, I thought she was pretty. And so I remember I go in to get my paycheck and here she'd come to the front. And I go, hey, don't you have somebody on drive-thru? They need their curly fries. And she'd be talking to me and tell them, hey, get back to work, Lucia. So she'd go back to the window or whatever, right? I remember one time I came to get my paycheck. And she was there, and she asked me, and she said, hey, I'm going to be on my 30-minute break. Do you want to wait for me? And I thought, well, yeah, I mean, what's the big deal, right? So I did. I waited, and there I am. I'm a senior at Faith Baptist Academy. I have grown up at Faith Baptist and gone to church all my life, and I'm having lunch, I guess like a date with this unsaved girl that I work with. And nothing happened. We just had lunch and she went back to work and I went home. And as I drove home, I thought, what am I doing? What did I just do? I thought, this can't continue. Not that anything happened, but if I continue down this path, it's going to destroy me. It's going to ruin me. And you may say, was that even a big deal? Well, yeah, because that is my weakness. That was my weakness. And I had to put a stop on that. And all of you have a weakness, and it's there. And even though you've made choices and you've made decisions, it's still there. And you have to keep fighting it, otherwise it will get you. It will destroy you. Jehoram had made progress, but he was still the same guy that had to work on these weaknesses. Last one, same chapter, go ahead and look at verse number 24. And this is the problem with having God on trial. This is where most Christians end up that keep God on trial. He never got God off trial. He kept him on trial. It says in verse 24, it came to pass after this that Ben-Hadad, king of Syria, gathered all his host and went up and besieged Samaria. There was a great famine in Samaria, and behold, they besieged it until an ass's head or a donkey's head was sold for 4 pieces of silver, and the fourth part of the cab of dung for 5 pieces of silver. And as the king of Israel was passing by upon the wall, there cried a woman unto him, saying, Help, my lord, O king. And he said, If the Lord do not help thee, whence shall I help thee? Out of the barn floor, out of the winepress. And the king said unto her, What aileth thee? And she answered, This woman said unto me, Give thy son, that we may eat him today, and we will eat my son tomorrow. So we boiled my son and did eat him. And I said unto her on the next day, Give thy son, that we may eat him. And she hid her son. Verse 30, and it came to pass, when the king heard the words of the woman, that he rent his clothes, and he passed by upon the wall. And the people looked, and behold, he had sackcloth within upon his flesh. Then he said, God do so and more also to me, if the head of Elisha, the son of Shaphat, shall stand on him this day. But Elisha sat in his house, and the elders sat with him, and the king sent a man before him. But ere the messenger came to him, and he said to the elders, See how this son of a murderer has sent to take away mine head. Look, when the messenger cometh, shut the door, hold him fast at the door. Is not the sound of his master's feet behind him? And while he had talked with them, behold, the messenger came down unto him, and said, Behold, this evil is of the Lord. What should I wait for the Lord any longer? This is why you have to take God off trial. This is why you have to give 100%. Otherwise you'll be like Jehoram. You'll be like Jehoram. The exact same thing will happen. You say, what are you even talking about? What happened? Well, here's what happened. Syria stopped going into Israel because they were scared of Elisha. So they surround the city. And a heavy famine sets in. So bad that we read to buy a donkey's head to eat. Who wants to eat a donkey's head? If you do, come to Riverside. We have trails and trails of donkeys up there. But anyway, donkey's head was worth a lot of money. Pigeon poop, worth a lot of money. That is how hungry they were. You say, I'd never eat pigeon poop. I've heard people when they're starving, they try to eat sticks, they try to eat pine cones. I mean, there's some pretty crazy stories when people are starving, what they'll do. This is how hungry these people are. The king is walking around as his city is falling apart. Don't forget, he's got God on trial. He's waiting for deliverance. What is going on here? What is happening in my life? He's got God on trial, and things are not looking good. And as he's walking down the wall, a woman calls to him and says, King, you gotta help me. And Jehoram says the right jargon. He goes, well, look, lady, if God hasn't helped you, how am I going to help you? We're all waiting on the Almighty here, so what am I going to do? And she says, well, here's what happened. Me and this lady, we made a deal yesterday. We would cook and eat my son today, and tomorrow we would cook and eat her son. So yesterday, we cooked and we ate my son, and today, she has hid her son. Can you believe the nerve? And when Jehoram heard that, the Bible says he rent his clothes, which is a sign of grief. And underneath his clothes was sackcloth. You know what that means? That's what kings would do when they are showing that they are praying and they are fasting. It was to show, man, I'm trying to get a hold of God. I am trying my best to get a hold of God. When they would mourn or something, they put ashes on their head and they would wear sackcloth. You know what that shows? Jehoram was trying. Yeah. He was praying. He was trying to get a hold of God. And it wasn't working. And so he says to the servant, Elisha's a dead man. He will be dead by today. If he's not dead by today, then let God kill me. And he sends the messenger. And Elisha's sitting in his house with the elders and says, can you believe this guy? This son of a murderer, this son of Ahab, he's coming to come kill me. Locks the door. The messenger's coming. His little master's not far behind him. And the messenger gets there. He tries to open the door. And he's banging on the door. And he has a message from the king. And the king's message is, why should I wait for the Lord any longer? All of this evil is from God. Why should I wait for the Lord any longer? Trial's over. Trial is over. Jehoram has made his choice. And I'm done. I'm done. Because he had God on trial, disaster struck, and he was done. I have seen so many Christians who were Christians for a long time, and then something terrible happens. And can I just say, in many cases, it is terrible. It's something awful. Something bad happens in the church. Something bad happens in their life. Something bad happens in their relationship. And you know what goes? Their faith, their Christianity, they're done. They're out. And they go out, and they're done, and they get on social media, and they start trashing the church that helped them come to the Lord, that got them saved, that helped them get married, that helped them in so many cases, because yes, I will admit, something terrible happened, but the problem was not that something terrible happened. The problem was the entire time, God was on trial. And now the trial is over. Something bad happened, I give up on Christianity. Injustice happens to me, I'm done with that. I tried Christianity, it didn't work out. I tried, and Jehoram was trying, but he still had God on trial. Your Christianity cannot be based on just good and bad happening to you. If your Christianity is based, well, as long as things are going good for me, I'm in. But as soon as things go bad, and it's unfair, and it's unjust, well, I'm gone. Well, I'm out. Forget that. But that's what will happen if God's on trial. If God's on trial for you, as soon as disaster strikes, you will be gone. You will be out, you will be bitter, you will be angry, you will walk away from God. And by the way, can I just say, this was a real trial. Jehoram just talked to a woman who killed her own son and ate him. That's a terrible, terrible situation. I talk to so many people, and I haven't been pastor very long, but I have seen things that are crazy, and people, they have real needs, they have real hurts. I'm not trying to belittle anyone's hurt. I'm not trying to say your trial is not real. Oh, no, it is real. I understand that. I understand terrible things happen. Terrible trials happen. But I also understand that having God on trial is the worst decision you could make. Ironically, when the times get tough, that's when you need God the most. Yeah. When the times get tough, that's when you want to be closest to God. Jehoram needed God now more than he needed him ever. And for you, when the tragedy strikes, you want to be close to God. And we have seen Christians that have been close to God, makes all the difference in the world. We already mentioned Brother Josh, gone through cancer multiple times. I've never, ever spoken to him about it, but I would be willing to guess he would say that cancer helped him get closer to God. I've never talked to him about it, but that's what I would assume. Now, I don't want cancer. I would not want any of you to get cancer. I would not want any of my loved ones to get cancer. But Brother Josh, his faith was not on trial, and it brought him closer to God. Yeah. And your tragedies, as terrible as they are, when you do not have God on trial, you will get through it. I promise you, 100% you will get through it. You will get to the other side, and something amazing will happen. You will look back and you will say, that brought me closer to God. Yeah. You may even say, I'm actually glad I went through that. Well, now, I know that sounds crazy. I know that sounds like no way, but that is what happens. Yeah. That is how it works. Right. When you take God off trial, and you are in 100%, and I know it's difficult, you, when you go through your trials, will get through them on the other side and say, I'm glad I went through that. It helped me. Yeah. And now you can take that knowledge and you can help somebody else. You don't think there's anybody else hurting the way you have hurt? You don't think there's anybody else that's going to go through what you have gone through? That has had the broken home, that has had the gone parents, that has had the rough home life, that has had the bad neighborhoods, that has had the disappointment and the betrayal? No, there are scores of people. There are young kids right now going through what you went through. Who is going to help them? Who is going to save them? The fact is, you can, if you will just take God off trial. Stop with the 75%. Stop with the 80% or the 85%. Stop having a sushi God. Go 100% in. What is it that you are so afraid of? You're afraid of it not working out. Ironically, by Jehoram throwing in the towel, he would also miss the miracles of God. God ends his story in a miraculous way. Jehoram was there, but he's on the wrong side of things now. At the end of his life, he goes by the name Joram again, no longer Jehoram. And I'll make the story real quick. Basically, God sends a noise. The king of Syria thinks that enemy armies are there. They flee. 4 lepers are outside the city, and they're just sitting there, and they go, well, you know what? We might as well go to the Syrians. If we stay here, we're going to die. We go in the sea, we're going to starve to death. We go to the Syrians, they may kill us. Who cares? We're going to die anyway. If we live, though, we got a cool story to tell. So they